As you can see by all the tools on the table here. Today's video is all about my belt making process from start to finish. First thing is, from my 9/10 ounce belt leather, I have to cut a straight edge. Now I use what you see here, which is called a belt stripper, and I'm cutting a belt out. You have to hold this tool very tight against the straight edge to get it to cut a uniform strip, and each belt is cut one at a time, like that. The next thing is I trim the edges. This is the edge, the tip edge, and then I trim the buckle edge. Next, I'm beveling. This rounds off the edges of the belt, which is going to make it more comfortable. It is done on all four sides, top and bottom of the belt, so it rounds off the edges on the inner side and the outer side. Next, I use what's called stitching groover, and I'm going to scribe a line down the center. On the edges rather. Now this is not necessary, but this is what I use to line up my tooled designs, which is what I'm going to demonstrate next. So as you can see, the lines are on the side. I have scribed a line down the center of this belt with a tool called a ring divider, which is, you can see a tiny bit in the background there. And that is also, this is the tool here, is also used to space the design apart. Once I've established design, most of them I make up from my head, but once I've established a design, I can use that to measure the distance between, the same tool again, because it's going to be a repeat pattern, and that way I can stamp it much faster, so that I can go along and stamp the same tool over and over again, which is what you're going to see here. I've stamped that design down the center. Now how my designs work, or how I kind of build my designs, the tool I'm using here is touching the bottom edge of the tool, the design I made in the center, and then touching that line along the side. And I'm going to go along this bottom edge of the belt, and then I'm going to turn the belt strip around and do the other side, because it's easier for me to see what I'm doing when it's facing towards me and hold the tool. So I've gone down that one side, now I'm going down the other side with that tool. Once I've stamped that design, I'm going to look at the belt, and I'm going to figure out what I think will fit in there next, and I kind of build this design as I go along. So this tool, again, when I first made up the design, fits in there perfectly, which is how the design is measured out, actually, once I figured out what the design, the pattern is going to be. And so now this is stamped all along there. Again, I've done the one edge, now I'm coming back and doing the second side. And then once that was done, I decided to add this tool to make another little design on there. Again, it's really done randomly. How I decide on the designs and what I select is all done by looking at the design and seeing what I think, if I think it needs a little more or a little less. I tend to like things to have a lot of design. Sometimes I have to hold myself back because not everybody likes things quite as detailed. So now that the design is done, the coloring comes on, which is generally Sharpie markers. So I color random spaces in on the belts. It varies from belt to belt, different colors, and how you color the belt makes a big difference in how it's going to look. Next, I'm going to do, with what you just saw there, is a dye resist. I'm going to paint this on, and that's where the dye is not going to absorb into the leather, so it's going to stay the lighter color. So now these belts have the color on them. I've added the dye resist. The next step is to dye them, which is by far the messiest. So I'm not really showing you here. They are paste dyes in different colors. You put it on heavy, but what it's going to do, it's going to fill in all the little impressions. As you can see on here, there's some areas of the belt that are slightly lighter. Those are where I've painted on that dye resist, as well as on the lighter colors, so they stay looking the color I want them to be. The dye is you put on heavy like a paste, and then it's wiped off. Next is the edges. So this is called Trager Cap. This is put on those edges that I've rounded off now, the sides of the belt. This is going to help smooth off those fibers, so the belt is smooth on the edges and not rough and like dragging like, a hangnail. So, it's going to be smooth and not drag on things. That makes a big difference in the belt, and not everybody does that. Once the Trager Camp is on, you use this burnisher, and you rub the edges along that. It's on a drill press so it turns. Next is the sky ring. So now this is going to thin out where the buckle end of the belt is, so it's not too thick, because this leather is 9/10 ounce leather. If you just leave it, it's going to be very bulky where it folds over to attach the buckle, and that's going to make it uncomfortable. So I skive off this piece on the back, which you'll see a little bit better in a second here. Is that, I cut off a piece from the back of it, and see the difference in the bulkiness. If I hadn't cut that off, it would be very wide like that. Next, I cut the slots for the buckles, and then the buckles are added. I have all solid brass buckles. I have 3 different shades, but I also have nickel over brass finish. So I randomly select buckles to go, and here are what some of these belts look like. It will be coming out in my next product line that launches in March.